What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video. Welcome to Saya's Domain, where we talk a lot about politics as well as the entertainment industry, because you and I both know that the entertainment industry is dribbling with a lot of politics. But today, let's talk about socialism real quick. And I don't want to mince words, but let's start with the definition of socialism before we get into what we're going to be getting into today. So, socialism is a political and economical theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Now, in theory, that sounds good. It means that everybody gets equal everything. But then again, you have to sacrifice something to get equal everything. Everybody should be equal, right? But you have to sacrifice something. Now, when it says that it should be owned and regulated by the community, who is the community? Who is the representative of the community? The government, right? Yes, and this is why progressives are advocating for more government in your life. This is why they are advocating that government should take more control of things that are happening rather than you being in control of things that are happening. This is why they are advocating for minorities to be more equal or equity. They wouldn't say more equal. They are actually advocating for equality of outcome, not equality of opportunities. So in other words, equality of outcome would mean that you could work as hard as you like, and somebody else could be as lazy as they like. And what would happen is, according to equity, you guys would be allocated the same kind of pay or the same kind of reward. That is what socialism does. Now, in Marxist theory, socialism, the state of socialism itself, this is how it is defined. Socialism is a transitional social state between the overthrow of capitalism and the realization of communism. So this is why you would find out that a lot of people who are on the left, majority of liberals, white liberals, black liberals, it doesn't matter. They're all criticizing capitalism, saying that capitalism is the worst thing that has ever happened because it is creating wage gaps between minorities and the people that they call the majority, which is the white people. Even though by record, if you look at earnings, in terms of average earnings, there are many minorities that earn a lot more than white people. That I will treat in another video. But now you understand what socialism is. You know that it is a transition between capitalism, the overthrow of capitalism, into communism. So every supporter of socialism is a supporter of a communist regime. That's for sure. And that is why many of these people, many of these Marxists, many of these BLM, people like Mark Lemart Hill, they're all advocating for a reimagining of the society. The reimagining of the society, according to Marxism, is reinventing the society, throwing away, making away, or doing away with capitalism and pushing it into socialism. Now, having said that, this is a very dangerous concept because when it comes to socialism, it means that you give up a lot of rights for you to be able to enjoy equal wealth with everybody else. So you are giving up your right, your freedom of speech, more or less. And this is why in many of these countries that are communist in nature, many people cannot speak their voice, because if they do, they will be silenced. Right now in Cuba, we know what is happening. A lot of people are out protesting in their thousands in many states in Cuba. I think over 49, 50 cities in Cuba, they're all protesting against the communist government. But heck, tell that to people from the left in the US. Now, I suppose you all know Nikole Jones. She is the founder of the 1619 Project. And the argument of the 1619 Project that was backed by New York Times, by the way, is that America is not found based on the Declaration of Independence of 1776, which actually proclaims your freedom, your liberty, your right, your ability to be able to do whatever you want. But it's actually not based on those values. It's actually based on the values of 1619, which is based on racism and slavery. In the project, she argues that 1619 is the first time that Africans were brought to America. I think about 20 or 30 odd people brought to the shores of Virginia in the US in a British colony as slaves. Although some would argue that those that were brought into the US as a 1619 were not slaves, that slavery has been occurring since 1462, since the time of Christopher Columbus. Now, what we have been gathering from that particular project was that it was all based on facts. But as we now know, so many of the facts that were written in that project have been retracted. Some of the statements have been withdrawn because initially the statement made it look like all the colonists that fought in the 1619 period were fighting for slavery. Then she retracted it, or they re-edited it to some of the colonists were fighting for slavery, which means that if they lied about that, how much more things are not factual about the 1619 project? We don't know. I don't know much about the history. I don't know what the essence of them actually reimagining the history or actually reproducing this history could actually do. But I do know for sure one thing is that majority of these people that are talking about this history or the founding of America basing on a racist history are actually calling for one thing and one thing only, which is socialism. I mean, just imagine her talking about this in a podcast about 2 years ago.
Are there candidates right now, or even just places, that you think have a viable and sufficiently ambitious integration agenda? And if so, what is it? that laughs at a lot right there.
Yeah. I mean, let me just, I'm definitely not an expert on race relations internationally. And it's also hard to look at countries that didn't have, large institutions of slavery and compare them to the United States. The answer is probably going to be surprising that I'm going to give, which is if you want to see the most equal multiracial, it's not a democracy, most equal multiracial country in our hemisphere, it would be Cuba. Cuba has the least inequality between black and white people of any place really in the hemisphere. That's, the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean, it's hard to count because the white population in a lot of those countries is very, very small. They're countries run by black folks, but in places that are truly, at least biracial countries, Cuba actually has the least inequality. And that's largely due to socialism, which I'm sure no one wants to hear.
So there you have it. She's an advocate for socialism, and she was actually citing Cuba. Cuba, who is actually going through turmoil right now. People there are criticizing their government. People there are protesting against their government, as you have seen in the news all over the world, that socialism is failing there. And not just socialism, their government is a communist government rolling some socialist system on the people. Now, what is quite interesting there is that she talks about how Cuba has the least inequality amongst white and black people. That is a fact. But what she omits telling you is that there is difference between the ruling class and the working class. There is a huge disparity between the working class and the ruling class, which means that today, if the USA hands over, if you people give up power to your government, there will be a ruling class and there will be a working class. This is how socialist systems work, and this is how communist systems work. And once that happens, there will be a huge gap between that. And that's the real problem. That's the real issue. Those are the real oppressors. When you think about it, most of these people that are arguing that it is a race in terms of oppression, that it is one race oppressing another, it is actually class oppression. It is actually a class that can actually oppress people. But she would never mention that. Most of these people wouldn't. You're not going to hear this from AOC. You're not going to hear this from Ilhan Omar or any of these people, because they want to play the race game. They want to convince you enough so that you can hand your power over to the government. This is the system. This is the reason why Roland Martins, a liberal, was angry with King Randall, a conservative who wanted to do for self. They are totally against the idea of do for self. That's why they are totally against the idea of capitalism. Now, this leads me to the question as to why do you think they would be doing this? Well, this is very simple. They act like they care about you and that everything they're doing is to fight for you. But what they really care about is staying in power, being part of the elite. And what happens in a socialist system is that the elite will remain elite and the working class will remain working class. So you, as a person who has a hope of becoming somebody in future, will not be able to do it. You will not have another Cori Bush. Cori Bush was somebody at some point in her life, she was homeless. She was a homeless woman and she was campaigning as a homeless woman. Today, she earns $174,000. She's part of the Congress and she is a lawmaker. This will not happen in a socialist system, but yet you would find out that these people are advocating for such. Why? Because they only care about themselves and they know if they succeed in ushering socialist system, they will remain part of the ruling class, and you who is supporting this, who is blind to all this, will remain part of the working class. In other words, they will be the kings and you guys will be the peasants. And this is why you are seeing that people in Cuba are sick and tired of this, because they can't advance. The only place that Cubans can't make it is in Cuba. They can't advance, they can't do anything, they can't own businesses, and even when their families that manage to run away to US are remitting money to them, it passes through the government. Government takes 15% of whatever is sent to them, also converting the money into their Cuban currency, making it lesser than they should actually be getting. So there is no way anybody in Cuba who is not part of the elite will actually make it. So for any of you who are leftists out there who are clamoring for this, who somewhat hate America without doing your own research, why not do a little bit of research? I'm not even asking you to travel to these countries to go and live in these countries. Why not Google what's happening to these people in these countries? Google what's happening in North Korea. It's a communist state running socialist system. Google what's really happening in China. It's a communist state running socialist system. You're not going to find any of these people wanting to go live there. You're not going to find any Cubans. You're not going to find anybody from South America, Central America, trying to get on a boat and say, we're running to China because we're going to get equality there, or we're running to North Korea, or we're running to Russia, or we're running to any of these communist states. No, they want to run to America where there's capitalism, where there is freedom. Some of them want to run to Australia or England, places where capitalist system is being ran, right? Places where they're being run. They don't want to run to those places. So anyways, you guys, I'm going to have to put a pause on this. I'm going to talk about this a lot more in another video. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you did, please feel free to like this video. It is massively, massively important that you do so, because YouTube loves those likes, and it actually gets this video to a lot more people. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for keeping up with me. Hope I made sense to you today. If I didn't, please leave your comment in the comment section below and correct me for wherever I am wrong, or wherever you disagree, or wherever you agree. I really appreciate your comments, and keep them coming. I gotta be getting back to work, but I'll be talking to you guys again real soon, because there's a lot happening. Take care of yourself, and remember, stay blessed. Peace. Sayas out of here. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. They will be the kings, and you guys will be the peasants.